This illustration deals with determining existing loads in accordance with NEC 220.87 exception. The purpose of change is to provide a new exception which has been added to clarify that any feeder or service that includes any form of renewable energy systems or peak load shaving systems has effectively altered the actual peak load demand which is seen by a meter, such that the maximum demand data available does not reflect the actual peak demand for the feeder or service. Additionally, there is no effective way to determine the contribution from these systems, so the peak demand could be calculated, and there is no easy way to describe a meter scenario that could be used to obtain the actual peak demand. Therefore, an exception is added to indicate that the calculation method shall not be used if the feeder or service has any renewable system or employs any form of peak load shaving. Now, first, I would kind of look at the exception, if you don't mind. And first, let's look at the feeder coming from the service equipment. At the bottom left here, it shows your mains there. Knows you got vertical sections with a main in each section ahead of everything, in accordance with 230.71B as in boy 3. And notice first the actual amps recorded for a period of 30 days. We come up with, we have 500 kc mills. Now we want to apply the exception to 220.87. And then notice the recorded amps with the amp meter or used power meter is 218 amps, largest ungrounded phase reading. So that has been monitored for 30 days. We have 500 kc mill from one of the mains in the service equipment routed over to the sub panel, which feeds a sub panel that's sub to it. And notice, thirdly, there we have an added load. If you look at the very bottom of the second sub panel there, and we come up with 102 amps. Now, with this information, we could go to the boxed-in information and do the calculation. Now, notice finding the recorded demand, 230.87, items 1 through 3. Maximum demand is 218 that we have recorded here, where we just went over that information in the sub-panel 1 that you see the information below that. So we are told to take 125% of that, which is 273 amp. We take the 237 amp that we calculate there, add the 102 that's been calculated according to continuous, non-continuous, etc., if that needs to be done. And then notice that we pick up 273 plus 102 comes up to 375. We refer to the new table 310.16, and 500 kc mill THWN copper is 380 amp, determining if this load could be added of 375, and yes, it is less than 380 of the 500 kc mill that's in the feeder identification right to the left up there. You know, we said we monitored it for 30 days. We said 500 kc mill, and we're gonna look at this exception. And then notice, yes, the 375 is less than the 380 500 kc mill. The 380 is taken from table 310.16, so that load could be added. Now the note kind of summarizes this below the calculation boxed in information. The exception to 220.87 does not require the PV system calculation to be used as outlined now and 220.87 exception under item number 3. One other thing I would call out where the authority having jurisdiction feels like it's been done properly. If we look at 310.14, A as in Apple 1, the engineer may calculate the impasse of these conductors without using table 310.16 by following the rules of 310.14A there. So you have to check with the authority having jurisdiction if you do that, though, and see if they will accept that type of calculation without going to the table 310.16 to determine the ampacity of those conductors and how the load was calculated and so forth. So that is the main impact of this rule, that any type of PV system, say wind generators or electrical wind systems, any kind of fuel cell systems would not be included in this type of a calculation as identified in your purpose of change and 220.87 exception item number 3.